Being beautiful as always. How you doing tonight? Coming from you, from here, from there, from outer space. Today. Yes, we have. We started. It's right there. You behind, man. Come on. So how's everybody doing out there? Shout out to the real ones. All right, come on.
I'm good. I'm good. Now that I can see the screen, so I guess I am a little bit delayed.
All right, it's all right.
Hey, it's Tuesday night. So everybody, you got in touch with the Miller Boys, your Tuesday evening hour, listening to brotherly love in the way that the Miller Boys do it. Tonight is Tuesday, April 21st.
You made it. You made it.
You made it.
You made it. The shrooms didn't kill you.
Our apologies last week.
Yesterday was 420.
We had some. We'll talk about that in a second. But we had some technical difficulties last week and we weren't able to get on. Hopefully everybody got our message and didn't waste a whole bunch of time looking for us. But we're back this week and in full effect. So can I start?
Yeah.
Okay, I got some political stuff up front. First of all, census. Okay? Everybody needs to get their census completed. It's as easy as can be. All you got to do is have a computer or a smartphone and go to 2020census.gov, 2020census.gov. Go on there. Those of you who have been mailed home the flyer, that was probably about almost 2 months ago, 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks ago, everybody was mailed a flyer to their home. There's a 12-digit code that's on there. If you have that 12-digit code, when you go to this site, 2020census.gov, you can punch in that 12-digit site. It'll immediately take you to your specific online destination so that you can fill out all the information. If you do not have that card, please go to that same site, 2020census.gov, 2020census.gov. You go on there, and then you click on it. It says, I do not have my code. And all it does is take you to a page. You type in your address, your street address, the zip code, all type of things, and then you're able to fill in the information. Remember, the census is not about individual people registering. It's about households. So at an address, that's what they're looking for. How many people are living at that particular address? And so even if you had a postcard that came that wasn't addressed to you, but there's a 12-digit code on there for the address that you're at, that's your code, because it's based off of addresses and not individual people. And so I was able to do my census registration as well as my parents' census registration. I had my code. I didn't have theirs. It took me about 5 minutes. Couldn't be more easier, more simple than to go to 2020 census, census.gov, G-O-V, and complete your census now. Please don't dilly-dally around. For those of you, my brothers and sisters that are here without papers, please, you need to be part of the census also. This should be for everybody. I say again, stress, everybody living in the state of California needs to be registered in the census, whether you're here legally or illegally. Remember, I share this as a reference all the time. There was a census that was taken in 1800. There was a census that was taken in 1810, 1820, 1830, 1840, and 1850. That is important because at that particular time, people who look like me and my brother were not actually citizens in this country.
The pretty ones.
Yeah, the pretty ones, the pretty folks, the intelligent folks, the folks that broke their backs building this country. We were not citizens at that time. Anybody who was a slave of any sort, whether it be African-American or those from the African continent, Indian background, whatever the situation was, you were not a citizen at that time, but you were still counted in the census. You can go and look at all of the census records, 1800, 1820, 1810, and you will find that people who are listed as slaves, as indentured property of other people, are listed on the census. So please don't be dismayed by that you're not a citizen, that you are here illegally. It doesn't matter. The importance of this is that you, everybody here in the state of California depends on services. Anything that has federal dollars to it, the configuration about how the money is dispersed is based off of the census. So we're talking about highways, we're talking about schools, we're talking about hospitals. We're talking about social services. Talking about a myriad of different things. And California being the largest state in the union, we need to make sure that we're represented. One other last point on this is for everybody. Even if your baby is 1 hour old, you need to count them in the census. So those of you who are expecting right now in the next 30 days or so, I would encourage you to wait till after your birth, or make sure that you include the baby, any babies that are going to be born in 2020, into the census, because they also are citizens. They also they're responsive and will receive the provided services based on our census.
Fill out the census, turn it in. Let's go.
Yeah, you downplaying this, but this is very, 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 very serious.
Downplaying it.
2020 2020 census.gov. Everybody tonight, go on your smartphone or your computer. Please complete your census information and get that turned in.
Boo.
Okay, you got a point? No, I ain't talking about your head. I'm talking about you rushing me off the census, which is one of the most important things we got going on right now.
How's it? Once again, you tell people what they need to know.
Mm-hmm.
You express yourself how you need to express yourself so that people can understand.
I do. I try.
That's it.
Well, you need to also make sure that because everybody likes ice cream. Everybody,
no.
Everybody eats ice cream.
Real simple, y'all. Real simple. Cat Williams said it best. You can lead a hoe to the library, but you can't make her think. Do the census if you're going to do the census.
There's no if in it. Do the census.
If
period.
you're going to do the census. If
do
you ain't
the
going to do the
census,
census.
Period. There is no if. Do the census, period.
Yeah. Oh, is everybody taping the Prince thing, or, because it's on tonight and...
No, it's almost over. It should be over with now. I think it was till 8 o'clock because I was at home watching it beforehand. Okay. Anyway, I was going to get to that later. But anyway, so here's one other thing that's going on here locally. Have you been seeing the increase in theft that's been going on in the area? In particular, pharmacies are being held up. You ever noticed that? You haven't paid attention to that?
No.
Okay. There is an uptick in pharmaceuticals, or not pharmaceuticals, but pharmacies being held up.
Okay.
And narcotics being taken from
let me
these facilities.
Let me play the rational person, everybody knows I had a career before this, and about 1st of November to the even ATL. Had it called a stealing season or something season, right? From November 1st to right after Christmas, everybody's stealing.
Right.
Why? Because you got to go out there and pay for these babies that you can't afford, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you think is going to happen if they put a mask on the general public and tell them to go into a store? Whoa.
Okay.
They're going to start robbing and stealing. Okay. So if y'all want these masks to come off, keep robbing and stealing, because they're going to pull them right off your face.
Okay. That ain't where I was going, but okay.
So where you going?
I was just going with the mindset of what's going on. I agree that the climate here is conducive to people doing robberies and doing things they ain't got no business doing, committing crimes. But also, what is the mindset that goes along with that? We have not had a rash of pharmacies being robbed here in the Fresno area. That's not something that people have been doing. In particular, they're not robbing these facilities for money and for cash. They're robbing them for their narcotics. In particular, they're jumping over counters, going to the back, knowing exactly where they're going, getting the narcos and all the other narcotics that they got back there, and then bailing out. And so people were saying, well, they're just drug addicts, and I don't think it's the drug addict aspect of it.
What do you think it is?
I think it's the economy part of it. Selling those pills, those narcos, those what's the one that Rush Limbaugh was hooked on? Oxycodone, all those types of things.
Them KFs.
What's KF?
I can't tell you.
Okay, I don't know what KF is.
If you ain't in the Fresno circle,
I don't know what KF
KFs.
is. But there's a huge market for those pills right now.
There's always been a huge market for the pills. before they were going in stealing opiates, oxycodone, and all those things, they were going in stealing the cough medicine. They were breaking into stores stealing cough medicine.
But isn't the cough medicine, weren't they using that to cook meth, make meth?
No.
They were breaking in there to consume that stuff?
Of course, yeah. You know, you
Okay,
drop,
so then I was
drop your Sprite, drop your Now or Latest for the flavor. But like Cat Williams say, I don't know the recipe. But yeah, no, they were doing it for that, to make syrup so that they could drink it, get high. That's what Lil Wayne overdosed on.
The scissor. Okay, so then I was misinformed then by law enforcement agents, because I was told that stuff was being taken because of there's a chemical in it that they were using. They would boil out or whatever it is, and they would use it to make cooked meth.
No. You're talking about. That's why you can't go in and buy
NyQuil.
No, Sudafed.
Sudafed, right.
The amphetamines. That's what they were using. They were cooking out the amphetamines to make the narcotics so that they could reintroduce them into what'd you say, methamphetamines.
Okay, so then maybe I was conflating the two, but I know that there was, that because.
But I don't know the recipe.
I'm a big NyQuil fan. NyQuil and Dayquil fans NyQuil and Dayquil's got me through a bunch of uncomfortable situations, and so.
It
was a major inconvenience when I had to show ID to get NyQuil.
You don't have to show ID to get NyQuil.
You used to. This has been a decade ago, 10 years ago. I had to show ID to get NyQuil. Yeah, it was a major inconvenience in CVS and other drugstores over here in this area.
But I think that okay.
So,
try that one.
But anyway, so that was one of the things I want to talk about. Is just, and I don't know if that necessarily ties into other criminality and things that are going on, but I think that is the next wave that's going to be coming through when people aren't able to go to work. Because the government is shut down, people, have to be able to make a living.
I think that the people that are robbing and stealing and committing these crimes are not our citizens that are working anyway. I think that these are the post-teen, and pre-adults, the young 20-somethings, maybe up to 30 years old, who are exposed to a life of crime anyway. These are the criminals who, I don't know if you know this or not, but the possession of cocaine and heroin and those things are all misdemeanors now. So it's not like you're going to get busted with some hardcore drugs, the scheduled drugs, and go to jail. It's like the young lady who got caught with all that the drugs in her car for $420 and went to the Fresno County Jail and got released, and she got booked on the warrants that she had, but because all of her drug charges were misdemeanors, they released her.
This was yesterday?
This was either yesterday or the day before, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But it's the same thing. People are going to rob because they weren't raised right. Thieves are going to thieve because they are thieves. They're not out there posting up being doctors and lawyers, and then you give them the opportunity to wear a mask. Oh man, you remember when we went to the UCLA USC game and we pretended like we was gonna throw up on people to get to the front of the line. That's the oldest game in the book.
But you ain't no thief and you ain't no crook.
But I'm a sharp brother.
Exactly,
and so, I think well.
I got you, and I think that's
okay. So what's the likelihood of you getting caught if you run up in a CVS with a mask on and a turban on and all blacked out and closed out, and you leave? What are the leads that they're going to have? You can't stop
just a
anybody.
General description.
You can't stop anybody now for walking in your store
Correct.
with a mask on.
Correct.
So the opportunity for the way to proceed through the crime is there now.
So what about the opportunity that presents itself because of our circumstance?
What circumstance?
So one of my sons, has just been furloughed from his job. Okay, 2 months from now, if he still is still furloughed from his job, he may be able to go on unemployment. But if it was a young man who did not have the ability to do those things, how is he going to take care of himself? That's what I mean by the circumstance.
Do you think your son is going to go out and rob?
No, but I think that there are young men that are like my son that'll go out and rob, given the circumstance.
I'm getting ready to get furloughed. Do you think my old behind is going to go out there robbing somebody? No, I'm in the same circumstance.
But you have...
No. That's the circumstance that you're putting forth.
But you talked about how people were raised. Also, you had mentioned that earlier, and I think
I wasn't raised to go out there and rob and steal.
Correct, but
neither were your sons.
Correct, but there are people.
But if I was out there who was robbing and stealing and got furloughed and didn't have and this, that, and the other,
exactly,
I would be out there robbing and stealing.
I think the circumstance, as you said earlier, makes it even more readily available for people to be able to do that. Because you can go in any store now with a mask on. They can't ask you to take it off.
Okay, we're saying the same things again.
Exactly.
Okay.
I agree. That's what I said. Exactly. We're just looking at it through two different lenses, as the Miller boys normally do. I just thought it was interesting that those robberies that are going on, that they're not taking money, which is what most robberies are associated with. They're taking narcotics, and so I want to bring that up.
Well, the definition of robbery has nothing to do with taking the money.
Right, it has to do with value. But what I'm saying is most
personal property.
Yeah, most robberies here though are associated. Well, when you're going into a building, into a facility, most robberies entail taking of money. If you're going into somebody's house, there's personal property, this type of thing. But when you're going to CVS,
if you're going to somebody, okay, all right. You deal with the education, I'll deal with the law enforcement. Okay.
So, anyways, leading into that same concept, what are your feelings about the 3 states, Georgia, South Carolina, and Tennessee, which are scheduled to reopen certain industries on Friday, I believe, is Georgia, and then I think the other 2 are on Monday or something like that. But anyway, in the next 5 days or so, these 3 states are going to be opening back up to business.
I think that's probably the ignorantest thing next to Donald Trump being the president that I've ever heard in my entire life. I woke up at 8 o'clock this morning. Oh, I didn't wake up at 8. I turned my TV on this morning at 8 o'clock just so I could understand how these people believe that they're going to do what they want to do. But what it is back to a conversation that we often have about capitalism versus personal responsibility, and once again, the way you were raised. Mm-hmm. I believe these governors are Republican governors.
I know that 2 of them are. I don't know.
Which 2?
Georgia definitely is.
Right. The one who beat Stacey Abrams out of her.
I believe
Florida.
South Carolina. Well, Florida's not one of the states. It's Georgia, South Carolina, and Tennessee.
Florida's opening up beaches. Limited.
Beaches. They're not opening up commerce. They're not Florida's opening up areas that you can go to. They're not opening up stores. So the dude in Georgia is actually, he was on the record today saying he's going to open up barbershops.
Oh yeah,
hair shops, estheticians, people who do makeup.
Because they believe that the economy is more important than the principle of people.
So this is the same dude that 3 weeks ago said that he did not know that the COVID-19 virus was transmittable hand to hand. You heard about that too? You heard him say that today? Well, he said
but they're following. Yeah, but they're following Donald Trump. What do we expect? You know, what do we expect from people that are following Donald Trump? What do we expect?
Well, I have these regular conversations on Facebook. A couple of people that I associate with who are
shout out to Club Quarantine
or Trumpers, and it's real interesting when you get into arguments with them or you ask them to express why they voted for and why they're going to vote for Trump again. Inevitably, they bring up President Obama, they bring up Joe Biden. You know, he's saying he's senile and that type of stuff. Talks about socialism and stuff. They don't talk about why it is that they're voting for 45, why they voted for him and why they're voting for him again. It's just interesting interesting arguments.
Well, why do they tell you that? Okay,
They don't ever answer.
so why do you think they're voting for him?
They drank the Kool-Aid. They have bought into the system of, what do you call it? White supremacy and
The system of racism, white supremacy.
racism and white supremacy. I wouldn't necessarily call them, one of them in particular, I wouldn't necessarily call him a racist, but I believe that he has that superiority.
That's the beauty of the system of racism, white supremacy, because you don't particularly have to subscribe to the racist nature of things to be influenced by the system. As long as the system is benefiting you, I'll get in the cab and ride, because the cab is going to be a vehicle to take me from point A to point B.
Correct. Agreed. And I think that the three, in particular, the two of the three gentlemen I'm thinking of, that is exactly what it is.
So it
benefits them. It benefits them being in 45. At least they have the belief. They have the internal belief that riding with 45 benefits them.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Does that make them racist? Borderline, subjectively, yeah.
Okay. I won't push back on one of them. I won't, but one of them I would push back on. But anyway, it's just interesting. And then, like, to one of them tonight, one of the techniques and strategies that I deal with people who see things differently from me is I engage them, but I also look for commonalities. So today,
I engage them and flush them.
One of them who is an ardent, I guess that's the right word, who is a vocal, vivacious supporter of Trump.
Okay.
Who always, anytime somebody, whether it be me or somebody else, puts something responds, he is venomous at them.
Mm-hmm.
Today, found out we like the same cigars. So I engaged him in a cigar conversation. It's a strategy that I use with my students also. When I have in particular my Latino kids who are Sereno and Norteño, usually when you have conversation with them, they talk about the kids that are from here, usually are the Norteños. They talk about the Serenos because they're not from here, they're from Mexico. I bring up with the Norteño kids, where are your grandparents from? Where are your parents from? They're from Mexico. So you guys have more in common than you have this, not in common. And so as we start to have those types of conversations, those type of things, it helps to bridge some of the gaps. It doesn't fix all the problems, but at least it bridges some of the gaps and differences that goes on between them. And so that's kind of the strategy that I engage in social media when I have people who are who are vastly opposite from me, is to try to find out what our commonalities are.
And then when you find the commonalities, you stress that as a point that you guys are alike, or?
No, there are some commonalities. We can disagree. We can disagree all day long.
Well, this is interesting to me, because let's take the premise of what racism is,
mm-hmm.
right? So you want to find the commonalities with the racists if you're engaging a conversation?
Yes.
And the point of that is so that you can just know that you have commonalities, or is it so that you could break down the understanding to the racists that we're all human beings and that we all bleed red blood and that we all come from a common source? And
yes. So what is the basis? What is the foundation of racism?
Fear.
Correct. Fear of what?
Of a black planet.
Fear of differences. Because not all racism is black versus white. Not all racism is black versus white. We have a lot of racism here that is white to brown to within. We have people say that's not racism, but we also have tenets of racism within inside of each one of our ethnic enclaves.
Absolutely not.
You don't think that we have African American?
Absolutely not.
You don't think that
absolutely not.
You don't think that we have African American people who think
absolutely not. That's 3 times.
Oh no, you way off base on that one.
Okay.
We have African American people who believe that they are better because of their plot in life, their station in life, than other African Americans. That doesn't necessarily make them racist, but it does.
But that's what your argument is.
No,
is
it's
that
grounded. It's grounded in racism.
No, that's grounded in ignorance and bigotry.
Well, what is racism?
It's ignorant and bigotry based on the fact that I believe I'm better than you and I have the power to inflict punishment on you.
And we have African Americans here in Fresno.
Hey, you know what I say?
You
know what I say?
Who can inflict those powers. I wish I could think of an example without
I wish you could too.
Being specific. In the school system, I have seen African American principals. Okay, so let me use myself as an example. When I was becoming a vice principal back in the mid-'90s, I was one of the best suspending principals or best suspending administrators the Washington Union has ever seen. I could quote to you verse, ed code. I can quote to you the 48,900 and 48,915 verses and the objects, the letters and the objects as to what I was suspending you for. And I, unfortunately, understood, was trained, and was thought that that was the basis and the foundation for being a good administrator. Okay? Where did I learn that from? From a system that was grounded in racism and white supremacy. But this is me, an African American, who is perpetrating that. So we have other African Americans who are in positions of power who perpetuate.
So you suspended people based on your bias toward them of dislike, and you wanted to weed them out of the educational system so that they couldn't prosper later in life?
No, I suspended them based on the training that I received and how to use the ed code as a weapon.
Right.
Okay.
That doesn't make you racist. That makes the system that you're in racist.
Again, we're saying the same thing.
No, we're not.
Yeah, we are.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
No, we're not. So because you shoot somebody with a gun, does that make the gun a murderer?
The gun can never be a murder.
Now we're saying the same thing. Moving right along. What else
the
is
gun,
on your? What else is on your?
The gun can never be a murder
because it's a tool. You
Correct.
were a tool.
But it doesn't mean that gun cannot be used to perpetuate racist ideologies or a racist structure. So that's what we're saying the same thing.
Okay. If it makes you feel better, go ahead. You can agree with me.
Anyway, I love my brother dearly. Dearly.
Everybody loves a winner.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody loves Michael Jordan because he's a winner.
So here's another one. That was one of the things I want to talk to you about. Ask you about.
I don't know because
here's another thing.
Keep up with sports.
What is your response to your president's immigration ban that he just put in place? He is cutting out immigration, not all immigration, but most immigration. He's excluding people who are coming here on work visas. So if you're coming into the United States to work, and there was one other category that I heard today that they were talking about that he's coming in. Everybody else, if you're just coming like his wife's, like his in-laws came, that chain migration type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your response to that?
I don't care.
You don't care? Okay. Can you share why you don't care about that?
Why should I care?
Because it's going to affect you. It's going to affect you. It's going to affect your kids.
How's it going to affect
It's going to affect your wife.
How's it going to affect us?
Because the kids can be affected. This is a hypothetical. Your daughter could have a friend who is here illegally who may not be back at school when she returns. Your son could be in the same situation. Your son could have a teammate who is not here legally, or his parents are not here legally, who may not be there when they come back. So now you have to deal with the psychological component of that. Your wife works in social services.
Why are you telling my business?
You asked for examples. I was trying to give you examples.
Well, give me an example of something else. You know I had a death threat against me at one time, right?
Correct.
Okay. So as kind of a trigger. You know what triggers are?
I do.
Okay, but go ahead.
So that I was just trying to give you some real life examples of how that would
And that doesn't affect me.
Okay, we disagree again.
Of course we
But,
do. Because here's the thing. Donald Trump has put a ban in place to stop people from coming into the country. That's what he's been trying to do legally this whole time, right? He wants to stop the great, like my Facebook page that I put on there. If this is what you think of the greatness, take America back to when it was great again, welcome to America, right? You put a businessman in charge of the country, and what are we, zero for a barrel of oil now? Of course, that's not Donald Trump's. This is all, the United States is how the world is going to operate. He's crashing the country. Okay? So I don't have time, energy, or, I have other things in my space to worry about somebody. When they start deporting African Americans to the land of African America, then I'll have an issue. But I can guarantee you that me and my bush of the military ain't gonna get deported. Ain't gonna stop. We ain't going out the country, so we don't have to worry about coming back in the country. By the way, that takes me to something that's legitimate. If you have not gotten your real ID, go get your real ID so that you can fly at the end of the year. But once you have that, you'll know that you are a real United States citizen.
What is a real ID?
It's your driver's license or your ID card that you have to have before, I think, November of this year, so that you can fly on domestic flights.
Passports won't work?
Passport, I don't know. I don't know. I got a real ID. If I'm going to leave the country, then I'm going to go get a passport. As long as I'm in, I worry about stuff as it comes. So your question about the next person that can't get in the country because of whatever, then we'll worry about that when it affects me in somehow. For me, it doesn't affect me. So now let me ask you the same question. Why are you so sensitive toward that?
Because I've spent the last 30 years of employment serving the immigrant population. And so I know that, and there was, that would have been 2008, 9, when they had the immigration raids. I had kids after spring, I think it was spring break, might have been Christmas break, that when we came back, the kid was there that with no parents. They were left with other, in some cases it wasn't even family, but they were left with other entrusted people. And now we as a school system have to go through, how are we going to serve this child? We can't get in contact with parents. Who's now becomes their legal guardian? Who becomes their responsibility? If it's a special ed student, there's a whole nother set of circumstances that goes along with that because of the paperwork and things that go on with special ed. So it did impact me. It impacted my ability to be able to do my job. And so although it didn't impact me directly, didn't impact my sons directly, didn't impact my household directly, I still had to deal with the mental anguish, frustrations, circumstance. I remember a young man in my office crying because he didn't know what was going to happen. He didn't know where his parents were. Both his parents had got, I'm not sure. I know his dad was deported.
I'm not saying don't have compassion for these children that are in this situation. But
well, that's what I mean about the effects of it.
It don't affect me.
Probably not directly.
No, indirectly, how's it going? I raise my children to have an understanding of consequences. Well, the reason that they don't have parents is because their parents came over here illegal and were not citizens. The parents made a decision to have the child here. The child is a citizen, so the child can stay. How come the parent didn't take the child back to Mexico or to Guatemala or to China or wherever they were when they were deported?
because the circumstances here in America are way better than whatever circumstances.
For a parentless child?
Yeah. Parentless child, in a lot of situations, a parentless child is better in the United States than they are in Latin America.
Well, if they sent them to Latin America, they would have parents. So a child with parents in Latin America would be better placed here in the United States without parents.
In some cases, yeah.
Come on, not to some cases. Of course, some cases, yes.
There are United States citizens, there are United States kids who would be better off if their United States parents had nothing to do with them in the educational system. So the presence or absence of parents is not the determining factor for me. It's about the viability of that child and what the child needs.
So the child doesn't have the social economic structure of the parents because the parents came over here illegally and brought the child, and that was ripped away from the child. So you have a child with a screwed up psyche, a screwed up everything because of what the parents did.
Correct.
And now you think that it's better for that child?
I do. Here in the United States and being in the educational system here in the United States, I do.
Okay.
And as I said, there are United States born children who have United States born citizens parents who would be 600% better off if their parents had nothing to do with them. And I've seen that, and I can show you those types of examples. And so that's what I mean about the circumstances. So anyhow, last thing that I got. Today is the 4th anniversary of the death of my favorite entertainer, Prince.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Little Richard.
There's influences from Little Richard on Prince, but I spent probably the last 4 hours.
Wait, so he died on 4/21?
He died on 4/21 4 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, and he, his whole thing was about the opioids, and I guess he's having issues with his hip or something like that, and basically died.
I need 2 cheeseburgers.
You funny. I hate to use this term, but it sounds like he died of an overdose.
Why would you hate to use the term? That's what happened. He was an illegal drug user.
It wasn't illegal. It was overuse. He had a prescription for those drugs he was taking. He was just taking them overly.
You sure?
I'm positive because he had hip surgery. I want to say a year beforehand. It had to do with his hip. He had a hip surgery, and he was prescribed those opioids. He was taking those opioids so that he can get through his performances. There was an incident prior to his actual death where he was in flight. And I don't know if he had a seizure or what happened on the plane, but they had to divert and stop somewhere before they got to their destination so they can deal with whatever that medical situation was. And so, those opioids is bad news. That's why I've had 3 wisdom teeth, 4 knee surgeries, and I bet you I've taken 5 narcotics in my whole time. I'm just deathly afraid of those things. And it's unfortunate, but I've been listening to Prince all day long, and so been asking questions. And so I asked you the question I was asking some of the people earlier. What's your top 3 Prince songs?
Well, number 1 is She's Always in My Hair.
She's Always in My Hair. Okay.
Number 2 would probably be The Silence. Probably Irresistible Bitch.
Okay. So you're showing yourself to be a true Prince fan, by the way, because you're not going for.
You didn't ask me if I was a true Prince fan.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm recognizing game.
Hey, I love the purple.
You got a third one?
It'd have to come to me. I wasn't expecting.
So KP, you ready? Okay, so here's my number 1. ready for number 2? Here's number 2. Mister. Good one. And then number 3. Well, I don't think we did. You get number 3? We didn't get number 3, huh? Did you get it? Yes, sir. Okay, go ahead, hit it. Here goes number 3. And the good thing about this, the crazy thing about this song is, I heard it the first time I heard it. I didn't know who sung it, and I was like grooving all into it. I'm like, man, this sounds like Prince, and sure enough, it's him. He just got that that universal sound that I don't know, is in my bloodstream. I'm gonna ask you about the first time. Remember the concert?
Yeah, I remember the concert.
You want to share that?
Share what?
The whole. I mean, the first time we saw Prince, because we was together.
Not particularly, no.
Okay, all right. Anyway. Okay, you all right?
So what's the third one?
1,000 Hugs and Kisses. 1,000 X's and O's. That's number 3. Now I could have given you probably 10, but those are the top 3 I could think of off the top of my head. The other one is number 4 would be probably I Hate You.
Yeah, but I love you.
Yeah, it's spelled I-Y-E. I'm sorry, E-Y-E. Hate You. Yeah, that would be probably a consolation number 4. But 1983 was 1984, 82.
No, it was
82?
80 something like, yeah.
Maybe 82. Sullivan Arena, a group of us. I don't want to say it was like, what, 6 or 7 of us? Me, you, Greg, Duke Dolphus, Tracy White. Was Rich with us? Rich was with us, I think. I'm not sure if Rich was with us or not. Daryl Young. But we stood in line. We actually stood in line for about, 4 or 5 hours.
Oh, I don't remember all that.
We was down there waiting to get in line in our shorts and just kind of kicking it. So then we took off, went home. Everybody changed in shifts so we didn't lose our line. I think we were like the second or third people in line to be able to get in. And so we wound up getting in the concert. Was in the second row. Vanity 6 was first. Remember they had the curtain? Vanity
Why
6?
they had a curtain?
Because that's where the stage was set up. Vanity 6 was in front. They didn't have any instrument. Okay, why they had a curtain?
Because the time was their musicians and the time was playing behind them. Oh,
Okay,
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. I just know that they didn't have any instruments. The 3 ladies was out front in the curtain dancing. And then the curtain, after they got done, the curtain took off. And then the time was there. And there was a curtain behind them. And then when the time got done, then they opened up and Prince came from the bottom, I think it was, right out the floor. He came, jumped. I remember him jumping off the girls, speakers, all that kind of stuff. And you remember the first place you heard Prince?
Probably Greg somewhere.
It was Sam. We go stay at Grandma's house, and Sam. Remember how Sam had all that DJ equipment and stuff? We was listening and. Sam, why you listening to this fag? This fag. He ain't no fag. And And get into his music. DMSR, Bambi, all those things. He had the big old afro, that type of stuff.
No, the first time I heard Prince was on the radio. It was when he played his first big song. What was it? His first big song. Where he's on, it's either the one where he's.
I Want to Be Your Lover? No.
Yeah, I Want to Be Your Lover.
Okay. I remember, the first time I remember him being introduced to him is at Grandma's house. And Sam had all them albums and that type of stuff, and we would play, put his records on, and we'd play, and we'd fall asleep, and then we'd get beat up the next morning because we didn't cut the record player off. And
I don't remember none of that.
Yeah, so that's where I remember, being introduced to
See, Uncle Sam, you was an abuser.
Yeah, he was.
Way back then.
Him and all his boys, his partners and stuff, they tell us, don't y'all leave that stereo system on. Y'all make sure you cut it off. And we would go to sleep and forget about it. But anyway, I got a chance to see him, I want to say it was 4 times.
Mm-hmm. Did you see him when he came back to Fresno? And
I saw him.
Put him out in a little box and he popped up.
I saw him.
See, I don't remember concerts like, you know, the specifics. I mean, you know,
Sun Arena.
My brain don't work like that. Shout out to Miss Mayo's kindergarten class and everybody that was in it.
And I saw him in San Jose at the arena there. And I want to say I saw him in Oakland. Anyway, I remember seeing him 4 different times, and it was always amazing. The dude was a phenomenal performer, taken from Earth way too soon. But I'm happy. I'll be listening to. I went actually today. I reinstituted my Apple Music, whatever it's called, and I don't know how many songs.
How does that work?
It's $15 a month. But I had downloaded previously. I downloaded all the Prince's stuff.
It came back to you?
Yeah, it came back when I initiated earlier.
So when so let me ask you this question, since you want to stick a toe into the Prince and the. So do you call it the Prince sound or do you call it the Minneapolis sound?
For me, it's the Prince sound.
It's the Prince sound.
Yeah.
So when you hear like The Time and Vanity 6 and Apollonia 6 and you know, Maserati and Andre Simone and on and on and on. Those are, you would attribute that to Prince?
Now I would. Earlier, I think, 20 years ago, I probably would have called it the Minneapolis sound. But I didn't realize it until tonight, looking at the special they have for him, the tribute they have for him, that he was writing songs for other people under the name of Christopher, something like that. That was his alias, and he wrote songs for. Well, we knew he wrote songs for Sheena Easton.
Yeah, Sugar
Walls. Bangles.
I don't know what the Bangles was. Madonna. He wrote
Manic Monday. He wrote that song for him.
Okay.
The Bangles. I don't remember all. It was a bunch of girl groups that they were talking about today when they were talking about that they attributed to him. But he didn't write them under Prince. He wrote them under the name of. It was either Chris or Christopher. That he wrote those songs.
Didn't he write a song called Christopher? Or was Christopher somebody? Or
Chris? Yeah. Graffiti Bread. Hey Sam, what's up? You see, we gave you a shout out today for your introduction to Prince for us.
And Darren said you was beating us and throwing us out the windows and doing all kind of stuff, and that ain't cool. He was mean on Uncle
I learned
Sam.
a lot of good and bad lessons from my Uncle Sam.
I didn't learn no bad lessons from him.
But anyway,
Prince
has been a long time stable. I remember the summer of 1984, the summer that I graduated, when we were going back and forth to city county football games. That was when Purple Rain came out. Me and Rich and Calvin Laney every day riding out to Clovis High School Stadium for practice. That's all we would listen to.
Shout out to Calvin Laney, rest in peace.
We listened to them dudes that we hung out, the white guys and the other guys from other teams and stuff we hung out with. They wasn't necessarily Prince fans when we started, but when we got done with them by the end of the summer, they were all Prince fans. I was remembering the time, did a tribute to him. The Bird. Saw the Bird. Me, Sean, and Rich did that as our rookie show when we were at Weber State in Ogden, Utah, as our football deal. Being freshmen, that's what we did our show to. Dollar movies, going to see.
Outside of Prince, who was your favorite artist out of that Minneapolis sound? Or what was that's not kind of artist.
Jesse Johnson.
What was your song? And
I don't remember. I can't think of any of Jesse's songs off the top of my head. He was a guitar player. He was with The Time. I want to say played with. I don't know if he ever played with Prince, but he always was a part of that Minneapolis sound. But he had the livest concert I ever attended in my life. Me and Greg.
Wasn't the song "I Want to Be Your Girl"? I want to be your girl.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
okay.
he could play everybody else's song, him and Andre Simone.
Of course they could.
So he had a concert here in Fresno at the Wilsons, which is now that church, the Cornerstone Church. And me and Greg didn't have tickets to it. So we went down and kicked it. They blocked off the street, blocked off Fulton. So we was out there in the street kind of kicking. Everybody went into the concert. We took off. I don't know what we did. We went and did a bunch of stuff and came back because we were going to be just in the atmosphere like about 11:30, and the front doors is open. So we just walked in. There was nobody. They were kind of cleaning up stuff. We walked in, walked down second or third row where our boys was, kind of crowded in with them. And Jesse Johnson did not leave the stage until 2 o'clock in the morning. And the only reason why he left was Fresno PD threatened to arrest him because at an ordinance, loud ordinance, a performing ordinance, if you played after 2 o'clock in the morning, then you broke the ordinance. And so his last words was, Fresno, I love you. It's been fun, but I ain't going to jail for you.
You ain't going to, what's my man thing? The rapper from the Bay Area. You ain't going to do me like you did him.
I don't know.
I can't think of his name.
I don't know. I can't help you with the rap game.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyhow, so it's been another Tuesday evening here with the Miller Boys, in touch with the Miller Boys, showing brotherly love as only we can do. It's always a pleasure to be here in this 8 to 9 p.m. slot on Tuesday evenings with my brother. Hopefully we've been able to inform you about something. You've learned something tonight. Hopefully you've been able to reminisce. Rest in peace, Prince Nelson Rogers.
And Calvin Laney.
And Calvin Laney.
Yeah.
He was also mentioned in the show this evening. So what's your parting shots?
Well, I'd like to take this time to tell you what a wonderful guy I am. What a wonderful dad I am. What a wonderful husband I am. The thing is, if you are beautiful to everybody else, then when they do something to you and get to kick them in their teeth, then it's not, you don't even have to worry about it. You don't have to even consider their feelings.
I always consider feelings, whether it's good, bad, or ugly.
Where'd you learn that from?
Don't know. I can't explain. I don't know.
Okay.
But I always consider the feelings. Doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't mean I'm gonna change what I do, but I always consider other people's feelings, no matter what I do.
Before or after the violent act that you perpetrate on them?
Both. Mm-hmm. So I would be upset that I'm getting ready to give you this whooping, this knuckle sandwich, and then after I gave you the knuckle sandwich, I feel bad for giving you the knuckle sandwich. That's just part of my DNA, part of my process of maturation, I guess. But anyway, party shots for me is just it's all beautiful. Please make sure, I know he ain't going to hear this.
Oh, no.
Please make sure you get your census done. 2020census.gov. Look there at the bottom of the screen. Please make sure you go log on to the screen as soon as you get done with us in a few minutes. Make sure you get that done. It's important.
When's the ending for the census?
I don't know. I want to say it's October, but I'm not positive of that. So right now they're in a online system. The first time they're using the computer to do online. They were supposed to have canvas.
October.
I want to say the cutoff is in October. In June, they're supposed to send out canvassers for people who have not completed it. They're going address by address by address, but I don't know how they're going to do that now with the shelter in place.
Shout out to Eric Coleman.
What's up, Eric Coleman?
Shout out